The heat in Savannah clung to everything like a second skin. Even in late September, the air was thick with humidity, heavy with the scent of salt drifting up from the marshes. The Spanish moss swayed lazily in the warm breeze, hanging from the ancient oak trees like faded curtains. I sat on the front porch of our house on Whitaker Street, staring at my half-empty glass of bourbon, while the world around me hummed quietly. Somewhere in the distance, a ship's horn echoed from the port. It should have been a peaceful evening, but my gut told me otherwise. For weeks, I'd been feeling it, that subtle, unsettling shift in my marriage. My wife, Emily, had grown distant. Not cold, exactly, but distracted, like her mind was always someplace else. At first, I told myself it was just stress. Emily worked at a local art gallery downtown, and with the tourist season ending, they'd been hosting back-to-back events to bring in revenue before winter. She came home late, exhausted, sometimes skipping dinner entirely. But then came the little things. The soft, secretive smile when she looked at her phone. The sudden need to change her passcode, something she'd never done before in our 8 years of marriage. The way she turned slightly away from me while texting, as if shielding the screen. And there was that night 2 weeks ago. She'd come home smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. I didn't say anything then. I just stared at her while she changed out of her dress, my mind a tornado of doubts, fear, and anger. She didn't notice, or maybe she did and chose to ignore it. Emily had always been my center. We met in college, fell hard and fast, and built a life together here in Savannah. She was beautiful in a quiet, timeless way, dark auburn hair, green eyes that could be playful or piercing, and a laugh that could make me forget the worst of days. But lately, that laugh hadn't been for me. Tonight, though, something was different. It was nearly 9 when Emily came home. Her heels clicked across the hardwood as she stepped inside, a gust of warm night air following her. "Hey," she said, a little breathless, setting her purse down. "Sorry I'm late. The gallery event ran over." I glanced up from my glass, forcing a casual tone. "Big night?" "Yeah," she replied quickly, avoiding my eyes. "A few last-minute buyers showed up. You know how it goes." I nodded, but inside, my suspicions tightened their grip. I'd heard that same excuse too many times recently. "Everything okay?" I asked, watching her closely. "Of course." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Why wouldn't it be?" "Because you're lying to me, Emily," I thought. But instead, I said, "No reason. Just checking." She kissed my cheek, quick, perfunctory, and headed upstairs to shower. The faint smell of cologne lingered behind her, sharp and foreign. That was the moment I knew. Not suspected. Knew. Over the next few days, I became a different man. While Emily laughed and chatted on her phone late at night, I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning with dark thoughts. While she claimed to be working extra hours, I found myself driving aimlessly through the city, scanning parking lots near the gallery, searching for her car. I even downloaded a tracking app, convincing myself I'd never use it, until one evening when temptation won. The following Thursday, Emily said she'd be home by 10 after another private showing. At 9:30, I opened the app and saw her little dot glowing on the screen, not at the gallery, but at a hotel off River Street. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel. My pulse thundered in my ears as I drove downtown, weaving through the cobblestone streets, the city lights blurring past. When I reached the hotel, I didn't go inside. I just sat in my truck, parked across the street, and waited. At 10:17 p.m., Emily emerged. She wasn't alone. A man followed her out, tall, well-dressed, his hand brushing the small of her back like it belonged there. He leaned down and kissed her, slow and deliberate, under the flickering streetlight. Something in me broke. I didn't storm over. Didn't scream. I just sat there, watching, memorizing every detail, while a cold, searing rage settled deep in my bones. For 2 days, I said nothing. I played the part of the loving husband while inside, I planned. Revenge, I realized, wasn't just about anger, it was about precision. The man I'd seen was someone I recognized. His name was Ryan Carter, a local real estate developer and a frequent guest at the gallery's events. He was charming, successful, and apparently, sleeping with my wife. I started gathering evidence. Screenshots of Emily's location history. Photos of her and Ryan leaving the hotel, which I took the next night from a different vantage point. Copies of texts I found when she left her phone unattended, messages that made my stomach turn. Each piece of proof went into a folder on my laptop, meticulously labeled and time-stamped. By the end of the week, I had everything I needed. The next step was timing. Emily's birthday was coming up, a milestone one, with a big party planned at the gallery. Friends, family, local business owners, even Ryan would be there, of course. It was perfect. I spent the following days pretending everything was normal. I brought her coffee in the mornings, kissed her goodbye, asked about her day. I played the role so convincingly that she never suspected a thing. The night of the party, the gallery was lit up like a jewel, the warm glow spilling out onto the sidewalk. Inside, music played softly beneath the murmur of conversation. Emily looked stunning in a deep green dress, her hair curled just so. When she smiled at me across the room, anyone watching would have thought we were the perfect couple. I almost laughed at the irony. At precisely 8:45 p.m., I tapped my glass for attention. The room quieted, dozens of eyes turning toward me. First off, I began, my voice steady, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to celebrate Emily's birthday. She's an incredible woman, and she deserves to be surrounded by the people who love her. Emily beamed, touched. I smiled back, but there was steel beneath it. 8 years ago, Emily and I stood in front of our friends and family and promised to be faithful to each other. To be partners in life, through good times and bad. My tone shifted subtly, tension creeping into the edges. And like any marriage, we've had our ups and downs. But recently, I've learned something that changed everything. A ripple of unease passed through the crowd. Emily's smile faltered. "Daniel," she said softly, warningly. "What are you?" I raised a hand, cutting her off. "No, honey. Let me finish." Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small remote. With a single click, the projector screen behind me lit up. The first image appeared, Emily and Ryan, leaving the hotel together. Gasps filled the room. Emily froze, her face draining of color. Ryan, standing near the bar, went rigid. Slide after slide appeared, texts, screenshots, more photos, each one undeniable, each one a nail in the coffin of their deceit. By the time it was over, the gallery was silent except for Emily's ragged breathing. "You see," I said, my voice cold now, I didn't want to believe it. I told myself there had to be another explanation. But there isn't. Emily staggered forward, tears streaming down her face. "Daniel, please," she sobbed. "We can talk about this, just the two of us." "No," I snapped. "You made this public the moment you brought him into our lives." I turned to Ryan, whose face was beet red with fury and humiliation. "You thought you could take what's mine and walk away unscathed. Consider this a lesson, Ryan, actions have consequences." I didn't wait for a response. Instead, I set down the folder containing printed copies of every piece of evidence, right in front of Emily. "This," I said quietly, "is for the divorce attorney. Don't bother coming home tonight. The locks will be changed by morning." And then I walked out, leaving her to face the wreckage she'd created. The night air hit me like a slap, cool and cleansing. As I strode down the street, past the ancient oaks and swaying Spanish moss, a strange calm settled over me. I had loved Emily once, truly, deeply. But that love had died the moment I saw her in another man's arms. Now, all that remained was freedom. And the knowledge that sometimes, the best revenge isn't anger or violence. It's truth.